Hello. So here we are with video 5, the Intro to Writing and Language Test slides. This should be a short and succinct video for a short and succinct slide deck that just gives a brief overview of the writing and language portion. So the writing test, as I said in the last video, there's 4 passages, there's multiple choice questions, 35 minutes. Sometimes passages are accompanied by tables or graphs or charts, as we'll go through in lesson 3, I think, but you don't need to have any knowledge of math. The writing and language test, we can conceptually break it down into 2 sort of subtopics. In practice, it's not broken down. These questions from each of these topics are interspersed, but we'll break it down for our purposes and how we teach it. So the first portion is standard English conventions or grammar. So questions that test on grammar, punctuation, usage of English. That'll be lessons 1 and 2. What we'll do today, what we'll do next week. Then there's questions that test on expression of ideas. So logic and flow in writing, proper vocabulary usage, tone and style, whatever those mean. That'll be lesson 3 in 2 weeks. And we're going to compartmentalize the grammar section like this, but again, in practice, all these questions are interspersed. The passage. So students will always be given a passage that has grammatical or stylistic or organizational errors, and then things will be underlined, and they'll be asked questions about it. There will always be 4 options. Answer choice A is not always no change. It's for the grammar-related questions, it's no change. Okay, let me say this more clearly. So there's always 4 options, and if it's a question about grammar, answer choice A will be no change. That means that the current way that it's written in the passage is the best, and B through D are various revisions which may or may not be better than the underlined portion. Now for questions that are not about grammar, that are about organization, style, and flow, choice A might not be no change, because it might not be about revising grammar. It might be like, where should you place a passage, or like, what is the author trying to say, or what does this vocabulary word mean? But that'll be clear in the question. But for the majority of questions, answer choice A is no change, and B to D are revisions. So, some strategies. The main purpose of this slide deck is to give students a number of strategies for tackling this portion of the test. The first main strategy is don't rely on answering these questions by sound. I said this earlier in the video of going through the note. Students shouldn't be answering questions based on what sounds correct. This is a terrible strategy because the SAT will purposely ask things that sound correct but are actually not grammatically correct. So the right way to do this is to rigorously identify the grammatical rule that the question is testing and then figure out what works best based on the information we teach students. So down here, here's an example. Every student has to write their own paper. Sounds like it's correct. Is it correct? Well, is it no change? Their own paper is his or her own paper or your paper? Even though we might talk like this, it's technically not grammatically correct. Every student is singular, and so the correct way of writing this is his or her own paper. When you demo this in class, we haven't taught students about, subject and pronoun agreement yet. We'll go through that later. The point of this is just sometimes things that sound right are not actually right, so solving it based on sound is a bad idea. Then, strategies number 2 of 3, and more strategies. Students should look at answer choices to see what changes from choice to choice, and that can give students a clue about what the question is testing. You look at the example here, I boarded the plane, comma, now it's time to take off. I wonder what they're testing. Oh, if I look down here at the answer choices, this is clearly testing use of commas and conjunctions. So now you students can think, oh, what was the rule I learned about commas and conjunctions? Oh, I have to use them in this particular way, and they figure out the answers B. Cool. Then strategies 3 of 3. Some other strategies. This is a reiteration of what was said in the intro slides. Don't leave anything blank. Students should always guess. They should use the process of elimination to rule out what's wrong. And if they happen to use the process of elimination and find that B through D are incorrect answers, then no change is the right answer. Sometimes people are afraid of choosing no change. Like, okay, can't be right. No, A will sometimes be the right answer. Sometimes no change will be correct, so don't be afraid of putting that. I think that's all. That's all in these slides. Let's move on to grammar content.